This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 98th time ever, we are live from the Reviewing Network studios. Welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live on this second weekend of July 2025. It's another week here. It's been another incredibly exciting week in general, especially with the big new release this weekend. The most anticipated film of the year came out, and let's just say that it exceeded a lot of people's expectations, myself included. And we're going to talk about that a little bit here, and what has been a relatively another slow week for news. At least this week we do have some news to talk about here, and I really had to skim through and try to find something to talk about here. There's a couple of other things I could mention, but it's mostly just rumors right now. There's the rumors going on today about Sydney Sweeney potentially being the new Bond girl in the next James Bond movie by Denis Villeneuve, but that's just a rumor right now. Nothing has been completely confirmed on that front. There's some other things I could mention here, but I did find a couple of stories to talk about, so we'll get to those in just a little bit here. Should be another relatively short episode this week, but let's go to what we usually start off with here, and that is, of course, the weekend box office, which it's just basically centering around the number one movie this week, because every other movie in here is mostly films we've talked about in the past already. But hey, good news for number 5, which is Disney Pixar's Elio. It's hanging in there. It had its smallest drop-off to date at 32.6% dropping off from last week. $3.9 million. The bad news is that it's still not doing well at the box office. $63.7 million domestically, but it did surpass the $100 million mark worldwide this weekend, bringing it to $117.2 million. The thing cost $150 million to make. It should be making a lot more than this, and I'm still let down that this movie did not do very well. I watched it again yesterday after I went to see Superman. And yeah, this movie got better. I liked it better the second time around. I still think the first 20 minutes are kind of slow, but once we get off into space, and then the adventure takes off from there, that's where the movie really shines. And the movie it's a great movie, but I really wish people would have gone to see it more. And I think this is its last real weekend it's got because of the competition coming up next week, which we'll get to in just a little bit. But it still pains me that Elio is not making any money. Meanwhile, the number 4 movie, How to Train Your Dragon, continues to pile on the bucks. $7.8 million, dropping 30.7% from last weekend. 5 weeks, it's brought in $239.8 million. If you count the worldwide numbers, it's already at $500 million, $560 million worldwide. AKA the money that Elio should be making, but hey, what do I know? I'm just the guy that actually is trying to get people to see more original stuff out there, but no, they want to go see regurgitated garbage from a live action remake of a great animated film. I'm sorry, that still bugs me that How to Train Your Dragon is still doing this well. I don't know. I mean, I'm just still disappointed by that, but it's just really, people out there wanted to see more original stuff. Here's an original movie in Elio, and everyone's just like, I'm not going to go see that movie. It's just I've been on that subject. I've been on that topic for a while now, so let's just go ahead and move on. Let's move on to one original movie that did well. I guess you could say that, even though I really didn't like F1 the movie. $13 million this weekend, dropping nearly 50% from last weekend, bringing its 3-week total now to $136.2 million domestically. If you count worldwide numbers, it's closing in on $400 million, and I believe this thing was a $200 million movie, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. It's either 200 or smaller than that, $200 to $300 million. So it is actually one of Apple's highest grossing movies as a studio, if not their biggest film to date. Hey, congratulations. Too bad the movie still isn't that good, which you could also say the same thing for the number 2 movie this week, number 1 last week, and that's, of course, Jurassic World Rebirth, which dropped 56.5% from last weekend, $40 million this weekend, bringing its 2-week total now to $232.1 million domestically. If you count worldwide numbers, it's up to $529 million worldwide after 2 weeks. Looking like it's on its way to $1 billion, which it's not much surprise, honestly. The big surprise about this movie I found out was that this movie actually pushed Scarlett Johansson to be the highest grossing star in terms of at the box office. I did not realize that, but when you put the pieces together and look at all the films she's been involved in, if you include all the Marvel movies, let me see if I can find the list here. Yeah, I got it right here. So the list here, and it's funny because I'm looking at the lead roles list. All but one person is in the MCU. You have number 10 Bradley Cooper, number 9 Chris Hemsworth, number 8 Vin Diesel, number 7 Chris Evans, number 5 Chris Pratt, number 4 Zoe Saldana, number 3 Robert Downey Jr., number 2 Samuel L. Jackson, and number 1 Scarlett Johansson. Take a guess on who that one person from that's not in the MCU is. Tom Cruise. So yeah, Tom Cruise is in a camp of his own. That's the one person who's not in the MCU. As of yet, don't be surprised if we get to see him at some point in there. But I find that kind of interesting that Scarlett Johansson actually surpassed Samuel L. Jackson as the top grossing actor right now. I mean, that's something that's really interesting. This list here is actually pretty interesting too when you look at all the all roles here, because you got all these different if you look at the top 20. You see names that we've already talked about: Bradley Cooper, Tom Cruise, Chris Evans. But at the top of the list is Stan Lee. Stan Lee is at the top of the list of the highest-grossing actors of all time right now. Even though he doesn't really have a starring role in any of these movies, he's usually just cameos. But hey, he surpassed Samuel L. Jackson, who's got almost 3 times what Stan Lee's number of movies are in. But interestingly enough, number 3 on the list is John Ratzenberger from Cheers, who's been in a bunch of movies. Frank Welker, the voice actor, at number 4. Bob Bergen. And then it's Chris Pratt at 6. Zoe Saldana at 7. Scarlett Johansson at 8. Robert Downey Jr. at 9. Andy Serkis at 10. Benedict Cumberbatch at 11. Alan Tudyk at 12, which he was in the number 1 movie this week, and we'll get to. Warwick Davis at number 13. You don't realize that, but he's in 24. He's been in 24 movies, but most of them have been Star Wars movies, Lord of the Rings movies. And of course, you got Vin Diesel. Jon Favreau was interesting to see on here. Dwayne Johnson, not really much of a surprise there. And Idris Elba is also on that list as well. So, very, very interesting list to say the least here. But anyway, yeah, Jurassic World Rebirth, hey, it made its money. It did what it needed to do. Too bad the movie itself was pretty fucking garbage, if you're asking me. But which brings us to the number 1 movie at the box office this weekend. And really, it's not that much of a shocker at all. But hey, people have found their way back to Megan 2.0 as it has gone on to gross $122 million. So 2 weeks after talking about Blumhouse fatigue, the fatigue is completely over because Megan 2.0 has now made not only back its budget back, but has made more than what the original movie made. And okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you. Actually, Megan 2.0 fell off badly again this weekend. It had a 65.9% drop off, $1.3 million, $22.3 million after 3 weeks. If you count the worldwide totals, $36.4 million. So it has made it back its budget, but yeah, there's still a lot of problems going on at Blumhouse right now. But there are certainly no problems going on at Warner Brothers and DC because Superman came and he is back, baby, better than ever, and people are taking notice. $122 million for Superman this weekend domestically, but if you count the worldwide numbers, it's up to $217 million worldwide, which is actually one of the highest openings in DC history, only behind The Batman, I think it did more than Batman, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check the list here, just to see. Yeah, it actually did better than The Batman, if you count hold on a sec, I'm looking at the domestic total, which was $134 million for The Batman's opening weekend. Okay, The Batman opened to $258 million worldwide, so this Batman had a better opening than Superman did, but nobody is really complaining about Superman not reaching that levels, because yeah, when you bring in close to $122 million, I mean, this is, I mean, you got to celebrate that, man. I mean, this is a movie that was all eyes were on this movie in particular, not just for DC, but for Warner Brothers in particular, because they have been through a rocky slump with their superhero movies, and Superman in particular, especially with what Zack Snyder did. And James Gunn came in, promised everybody that he'd fix this, and so far he's off to a great start. I mean, this thing is already proving that he's off to a great start here, and it can only get better from here. I think we're all asking of him is that is for him and also for Warner Brothers, do not fuck it up. You've already got it where Superman is back on track now. We can finally put the past behind us with the Snyderverse, and we can look forward to actually putting up this new chapter of DC Studios off to a great start, because they're already promising so much with what we got from Superman alone, and what they promised us at the end of the movie, where we get to see Supergirl for the first time, which will be the next movie after this come next summer. And I mean, this is going to be big things to happen here, and it's something that really should be. I mean, this thing is easily on its way to potentially becoming the big movie hit of the year. I think this should be the big hit of the year in general. When the year is over, Superman should be at the top of the list here, and yeah, and it works because it's just such a great movie. The reactions from most people have been really good. The critics have been strong on it. Audiences have come out in droves to give it the good A- cinema score, which means it should have some good legs going forward. Even with the competition it has a couple weeks from now with Fantastic Four, which word of mouth on that should be coming up pretty soon. I'm really curious to see how that works out, But, I mean, yeah, this movie just is an amazing, amazing film. This is one of the best movies of the year so far. It lived up to the potential that I thought this movie was going to have, and then some. I mean, the music overall, that music from the first trailer, when it plays in the movie, I got chills watching it again. I mean, this movie is so well done. The cast overall is great. David Cornsweet is perfectly casted as Superman. James Gunn knew exactly what he needed to do to fix the problems that Zack Snyder with the Snyderverse had with Superman in general. This is not a Superman that's supposed to be Batman because the director so wanted to make a Batman movie, but he couldn't get the rights to do it. No, this is a Superman movie made by people who know and appreciate Superman. You don't have Jar Jar Lex Luthor. You don't have these lame jokes in here like they had in Man of Steel and all that. Like, none of that is in this movie. This feels like a real solid Superman film, and this is just a great movie, man. I can't wait to check this movie out again soon. Hopefully I can do it next week, maybe, but if not, I'll definitely do it within the next couple of weeks or so, because this is something that I need to see again in theaters. I love the hell out of this movie so much. And that, hey, the whole thing about superhero fatigue is not really that much gone, really. It's just the fact that, it's not really superhero fatigue per se. It's just that you gotta find ways to make it fresher. I mean, the as much as I love the MCU, the last couple of movies, Captain America: Brave New World and Thunderbolts, really had big flaws to fill in, because one, you're dealing with characters, for the most part, that most people don't really know about. The most notable characters that most people know about from those movies is Anthony Mackie's character. I'm forgetting the name now. Like, it's hard for me to do this off the cuff. Sam Wilson. Good Lord, Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson. Like, he's the most notable character, but that's because he's been in the other Captain America movies with Chris Evans. The Thunderbolts, most people didn't even see the original Black Widow. And yeah, it's, as much as I love that movie, it's no wonder why the film didn't do as well as the other MCU movies in general. Like, people know who Deadpool and Wolverine are. People should know who the Fantastic Four are, which means that movie should do pretty well. But, like, at the same time, the MCU, I think they are starting to realize that they've got to change things up and quickly. I think that's why the Avengers movies got delayed until Christmas of 2026 instead of coming out next summer, which hopefully that will help that around here. I think they are starting to get the hint that maybe we need to change some things around here. And here comes James Gunn and what he's done with Superman, and the door is now open for what DC to fill in the shoes that Marvel seems to be losing out on here. Hopefully they will do it, because it looks like they're taking the smart risk of slowing it down, taking it one film at a time, seeing what happens. And Supergirl, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher to sell Supergirl to a lot more people. But hey, what we saw from her in the original movie, in the end of the Superman movie, it's pretty promising. I like that actress they got, Millie Alcox, and hopefully they can actually do something with that movie. But I like the idea that she's actually kind of like a party girl and all that, and that's why Krypto, her dog is basically as chaotic as he is in the Superman movie. But yeah, it's going to be tough to sell on it, but I think they did a pretty good job of giving people kind of a sneak preview of what to come with that character in particular, and hopefully that will pay off big time in terms of that movie's success rate going forward. But yeah. Now, in terms of some other box office news, Lilo & Stitch is closing in on $1 billion. Lilo & Stitch, as of right now, brought in another, just had the number here, $2.7 million this weekend, bringing its 8-week total now to $414.5 million. Worldwide numbers is at $994.2 million. Like, it's literally $6 million away from hitting that $1 billion mark worldwide. And I think it should do that within the next week. And it's looking like it could get close to a Minecraft movie. It's going to be very, very close in terms of the yearly numbers here. But Minecraft movie currently, let me see if I can get the number here of where we're at right now with that. Minecraft movie is currently at $423.9 million. Lilo & Stitch is at $414.5 million. It's going to be close, but I think Lilo & Stitch could have just enough to stick in there, especially considering Disney still has the 90-day releasing strategy that most studios used to have before some studios decided to just cut it down by half of it. But Lilo & Stitch still has a pretty good chance to get past Minecraft, but in the end, I think Superman will eventually take it over, but is when it's all said and done. I think Superman will have enough legs to make it to the number one movie of the year of 2025 if it continues on this pace, which it should, because yeah, it's getting the good word of mouth, it's getting the good praise by audiences and critics. It should do very well. Continuing into the rest of the summer in general, but we'll see what happens on that front. And then all the attention now goes to next week. For one thing, how big will Superman's drop-off be? Probably 50%. It could be less than 50% considering the competition coming up is not really that strong. I mean, the biggest new release for adults is I Know What You Did Last Summer. You know, the remake the reboot that so many people were asking for, which, no, they weren't asking for it in general. In fact, I found it kind of funny that one of the stars of the new reboot, Madeline Klein, said this, and I quote, "I know what you did last summer, walk so Scream could run." Yeah, Scream came out in 1996. I Know What You Did Last Summer came out in 1997. So yeah, the fact that that's really stupid. I mean, your nice ass isn't going to get you anywhere with that logic, honey. Then again, it might, especially if you're working for Fox News or one of those right-wing conservative network stations. Who knows? This might actually get her a job there in the future. But you really just went out there to promote your movie by saying that, I know what you did last summer. Walk so Scream could run. When you didn't, it's like, I mean. Some say that, yeah, she might be talking about the book or the story that I Know What You Did Last Summer is based off of, which, technically you might be right on that front, because that book did come out in, it came out in 1973, all the way back then, so, in a way, okay, she might have a point, but at the same time, you still went out there and you literally said, I know what you did last summer, walk so Scream could run. Well, yeah, you really just need to take a breather on that. I don't think people really are that excited to see this movie, man. I really do not. Like, I see no need to remake this movie. It's just like, it makes no sense whatsoever to do this, but who knows? Maybe I could be wrong on this whole thing. Maybe I'm the crazy one here. But no, I think a lot of people really are not excited to see this movie whatsoever. But then again, not a lot of people may not be excited to see The Smurfs either, which is the big new family release because of how bad the marketing has been for the movie itself. I'm still of the belief that the movie itself will be nowhere near as bad as the marketing has been, because the marketing for this has been atrocious. It feels like obnoxiousness from all across the board with the marketing for this movie. And yeah, I think they made a big mistake on that front there. And I think if this movie flops, that'll be the reason why the Smurfs bombs in general. But who knows? Maybe it could also be the fact that the movie could be bad too. Think about this. If this movie fails, this will be the 4th time they've tried to bring the Smurfs to the big screen, and it has failed miserably. Hopefully that will not be the case here, but don't be surprised if that happens. Plus, it wouldn't be crazy for that to happen, considering that Scooby-Doo had 3 films, all of which failed at the box office, failed to do the source material justice. And yeah, it wouldn't be that surprising if that happens with the Smurfs again, but I'm hoping for the best with that one, but we'll wait to see what happens when the Smurfs come out next week. It's not going to be a big week for movies in general. Superman should still do very well in its second weekend, hopefully, but we'll see what happens there. But other than that, though, that's it for the box office in general. The only big thing to talk about was Superman, which did very well, as it should. And I think it's going to do very well throughout the rest of the summer. I think it is going to hang in there as much as it can to continue doing business overall. And if it will give Warner Brothers that much-needed DC universe that they've been so wanting for so many years. Like, I'm glad to see we're seeing the working stages of a good universe that is being run without trying to copy somebody else and do it in half the time. That was the biggest flaw with the MCU, with DC's attempt to copy the MCU. They tried to make their movies in half the time that Marvel did, and it failed because of that. It failed on that front because of that. There were a couple good movies in there, but trying to do that in half the time just really goes to show that you're doing nothing but just copying your buddy across from you and just changing the answers around so it doesn't look like you're cheating all the way through. Just, I don't know, that's my thinking on that. But that's the weekend box office, so let's go ahead and get to some news stories. And like I said, not a whole lot of news stories to talk about in particular, but some notable ones regardless. It's probably not a good sign when one of the biggest news stories this week is the fact that the Garfield movie is getting a sequel. In any other week, this would be kind of like the 3rd or 4th story of the week in general, but yeah, it's not been a good week in terms of news in general. But Hollywood Reporter has the story here that Chris Pratt will be returning as the voice of the Monday-hating, lasagna-loving cat Garfield, which I gotta love how the way this starts off here. Like, the Monday-hating, lasagna-loving cat, which that could be taken in so many different wrong areas, but it's the Monday-hating, lasagna-loving cat Garfield, and an animated sequel to last year's The Garfield Movie. The 2024 animated movie, which was released by Sony Pictures globally, grossed over $230 million at the global box office. Alcon co-CEOs Andrew Kosoff and Broderick Johnson will produce the sequel along with John Cohen, Stephen P. Wagner, and Pratt. Namit Malhotra's Prime Focus Studios will co-produce alongside Alcon Entertainment. DNEG Animation, who worked on the first film, is back on board as animation partner. Ahead of the first film, Alcon acquired the rights from the creator of The Garfield. I love how it says that. Let's go ahead and let's show that right here, so you know I'm not kidding around. Like, creator of The Garfield. that should probably be the name of the sequel, The Garfield. But Alcon acquired the rights from the creator of Garfield, Jim Davis, who will serve as executive producer on the sequel. Bridget McNeil from Amuse will also executive produce. Producers are searching for a writer and director. So it doesn't seem like they're bringing back Mark Dindal, who did the direction for the last movie, or the writers from the last movie, which I can't remember off the top of my head. But the biggest one was David Reynolds, but he also had Mark Torgrove and Paul A. Kaplan. And it doesn't say whether or not Sony will actually release the new film in general. I'm assuming they will, but you never know. It could go over to Paramount, since the Angry Birds movies went over to Paramount after with the new film coming out. But yeah, in terms of this news, I mean, I like the last movie in general. I thought the movie was fine, but I'm not going to sit here and say it was a great movie per se. I just thought it was a film that was. It wasn't as good as it wasn't as bad as the Garfield live action movies were, but it wasn't the big thing that the Garfield series needed to like get to that level where it's a respectively good movie in general. It still had a lot of flaws to it, but it was still fun for what it is. I liked it a lot. I think it was an enjoyable film. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a masterpiece by any means necessary, but it at least gave us a good Garfield movie that wasn't a film made that wasn't a lousy movie with Bill Murray is on it only because he thought it was the same people who made the Coen. It was the Coen brothers writing the script for it, and not the other Coen brothers. But I've lost my train of thought there for a second. That's the story about the Bill Murray Garfield movies. He only took those movies solely because he thought that Joel and Ethan Coen, who made Fargo and also The Big Lebowski, Burn After Reading, No Country for Old Men, he thought that they were writing the movie, but no, it was a completely different Joel Coen, like the Coen who co-wrote Toy Story, but it's just like, how do you get that confused? But like I said, it wasn't a bad movie. It's the 2024 Garfield movie wasn't bad, so this will probably be it'll probably be good. It'll be interesting to see what Chris Pratt brings to the table with him on producer. I don't think he was producing the last movie either, so maybe they give him more free range to do whatever he wants with it. But anyway, that's that. So let's go ahead and get on to the other story I have. And that is that a new Night at the Museum movie is in the works. You know, Night at the Museum had a trilogy between 2006 and 2014, which were decent movies overall. None of them were really spectacular. But they're doing a new one because why not at this point? Everything else is getting rebooted. But 20th Century and Sean Levy's 21 Laps are revisiting Night at the Museum. The original franchise starred Ben Stiller as the overnight security guard at the National History Museum, where thanks to an ancient Egyptian curse, the exhibits come alive at night. Rami Malek, Robin Williams, and Owen Wilson were among the actors who played reanimated exhibits. Tripper Clancy of Die Hard, the Kevin Hart series with John Travolta, and Stuber have been tasked to write the new take. And that kind of worries me because I saw Stuber and that was not a great movie. Stuber was that action comedy. They were trying to put Dave Bautista and Kumail Nanjiani in kind of like a Lethal Weapon movie revolving around an Uber driver, and that film just didn't work out that well. But the original film came out in 2006 and was followed by Battle of the Smithsonian in 2009 and Secret of the Tomb in 2014. All three films grossed over $540 million domestically at the box office and were directed by Levy. Levy and Dan Levine will produce the new take from 21 Laps, and Emily Morris overseeing the production of 21 Laps, which will soon release the final season of Stranger Things. So right now, this is just kind of in the, hey, put a script together and see if we can get this, see if it's good enough to put out a new film, which, I mean, I wouldn't mind a new film per se. I saw the animated one, the Kamen Ra Strikes Again, which was produced by Disney, which it was alright, but again, it was nothing spectacular, nothing amazing. The animation overall wasn't that great in it, but it's passable. It works for Disney Plus. So you have like a franchise film on there from 20th Century Fox, but I don't know. This thing could go This thing could go either way. I think it could be a movie that either could be just as fun as the previous films are, or it could just be a film that is just made because Night at the Museum is brand recognition. So, not much more to say about that one. So, on to the next story. So, a show that I used to watch back in the day, and I really like to watch, is getting a reboot, and ABC has picked the show up. And that is the fact that Scrubs has been officially given a series order at ABC, and is supposedly going to premiere later this year. This is from Deadline Hollywood, and it says, the Scrubs reboot has been officially greenlit, receiving a straight-to-series order from ABC. Starring Donald Faison and Sarah Chalke, they've closed deals to return in the original roles alongside Zach Braff, who signed on for the follow-up in May. All three will executive produce. Bill Lawrence, creator of the original series, executive produces the reboot, which has secured Scrubs alum Tim Hobart and Asim Batra as showrunners and executive producers. Hobart was a writer, executive producer, and consulting producer on Scrubs. Batra was a writer and story editor. Jeff Ingold and Liza Katzer will also EP the reboot on behalf of Lawrence's production company, Doozer. The new series will follow J.D. Dorian and Christopher Turk, who've scrubbing together for the first time in a long time. Medicine has changed, interns have changed, but their romance has stood the test of time. Characters new and old navigate the waters of Sacred Heart with laughs, hearts, and some surprises along the way. It says here, Judy Reeves, who plays head nurse Carla Espinosa in the original series, is currently a series regular on High Potential with Caitlin Olsen, which, by the way, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia started up this week again. Talk about a great way to start the season off with the second part of the Abbott Elementary crossover. I mean, to hear Juanita Brunson calling Sweet D an effing see you next Tuesday was one of the biggest laugh out loud moments I've had in a long time. It was just such a great episode. Not only that, but the second episode where Frank goes into a coma and then they think he's dead, and then they, when Sweet D kisses the forehead and he realizes that something's not right about this. This smells like cake. And then you find out that Frank basically made a cake body of himself. And it's funny because I went to go to the bathroom after, as the show was coming to an end, and when I came back, the show ended, and then they cut back to the post-credit scene where it's literally Frank's body cut into a cake, and it's just like, what the hell happened? Like, I literally didn't see what had happened beforehand. But yeah, the whole thing was about, like, Frank was trying to prove that you couldn't tell the difference between my dead body or a cake or something like that. And that's how the episode starts, and then that's how the episode ends with Frank basically having a cake made of himself. Which I'll give him credit though. That was actually a really good gotcha moment there. Like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia always makes me laugh, but man, that right there was just excellent stuff. But back to the Scrubs article here. But it does say sources reveal that there have been positive scheduling conversations ongoing between Scrubs and the Caitlin Olsen-led crime drama to allow for her to do both. Scrubs is the second new ABC scripted series for the 2025-26 season, joining drama 911 Nashville, which premieres in the fall. Scrubs likely will debut in mid-season. So Scrubs in general was a show that I got to later on down the road. I think I started watching it when it was in one of its last 2 seasons on NBC, and I was watching it because it was on along with My Name is Earl, 30 Rock, and The Office, and yeah, it was a show I instantly fell in love with. I love the chaotic comedy of it. I love the fact that it was that style of comedy that is so silly and over the top, and it could be very dramatic too at times, and it found that nice balance between the two. And I watched it during the ABC run too, and the last season in particular was just, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. But it was at the same time just kind of like, yeah, probably should have ended it with the first season you had on ABC. But hey, I'm definitely looking forward to see the reboot again. If it has a lot of the same people from the previous show, I'll be happy with that. Like, if Dr. Cox is back there, that's gonna make it worth it. If the janitor's back, that'll make it worth it. I mean, I hope they're going in the right direction with this. I'm really excited to see it. I can't wait to check it out. It should be a ton of fun when that show comes back next year. But with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last story. Probably the most interesting story of the entire week when you really look at it. And that is the fact that Legendary Pictures is possibly looking to acquire Lionsgate. Which is very, very interesting when you think about it here. I mean, the house that's Jigsaw built, the house that's home to the Saw franchise, the John Wick franchise, the Hunger Games, Twilight, could all soon be under the same company behind the Jurassic Park films and the Minecraft movie. Just, it's unbelievable to think about here. But here's the story from Deadline Hollywood. It says here, Legendary Entertainment may be looking to acquire Lionsgate Studios, which have just spun off into its own ticker on Wall Street. It's very early days. Lionsgate just split in half last month, with Starz going one way, Lionsgate Studios the other, precisely so that either or both could be primed for M&A. What's clear is that Lionsgate and Legendary are at a minimum having conversations about a couple of feature co-productions that could be a litmus test in regards to see how the two companies jam together, and where to take it from there. Bloomberg was first to report the feelers from Legendary. Deadline hears that other parties have also reached out to Lionsgate, which again should not be surprising as the media industry appears on the cusp of a new era of deal-making, and Lionsgate Studios is now flying solo. There had been interest in the mini-major before the split, but potential buyers balked at having to swallow Starz along with the studios. Lionsgate, led by CEO John Feldheimer and Vice Chairman Michael Burns, has been informally on and off the block for years, and executives were quite attentive when Amazon acquired MGM for $8.5 billion in 2022, which most believe Amazon overpaid. Legendary Entertainment is the co-financier of big franchises largely at Warner Brothers, like Dune, the MonsterVerse, and this year's The Minecraft movie. Lionsgate is the studio behind such notable franchises as John Wick, The Hunger Games, Saw, Twilight, and the Divergent series, and some award titles in its 20,000-plus title label, The Monsters Ball in LA and La La Land, and Crash. Lionsgate shares jumped 20% today on the Legendary report to close to $7 with a market cap of $2 billion. Overall, its shares have not pumped since the split as management had hoped they would, a fact that could discourage the board from selling at this point even with a big premium. Starz shares have performed significantly better since the separation. One issue that's dodged the studio's sale is that a buyer would be getting 100% ownership of the cash-rich library. The studio offloads its foreign films in order to run a more risk-free, ideally profit margin type of business. More specifically, when Lionsgate may own a John Wick Hunger Games, they license out for myriad years, meaning the studio isn't earning a cash flow on such licensed properties in a way that rival studios, which fully own their movies, do. It's why neither Disney nor Apple nor anyone else has scooped up Lionsgate yet. That said, Such a setup may not be a big deal for Legendary since the producer is already in the partial rights IP space, owning anywhere from 20 to 50% of the movies they co-fund and produce. And the complication may be overstated. Basically, it's more big Hollywood studios that have rights free and clear, while most smaller producers need to carve them up. Lionsgate owns North American rights of their movies and has a 50-50 deal with Latin America. There may also be some angst around the film slate, with Ballerina underperforming and questions swirling around a flagship Michael Jackson biopic, but The Hunger Games' Sunrise on the Reaping is on the horizon. The real secret to Lionsgate's success is a streaming-obsessed town where major studios lay billions on the line to launch their own OTT services, is that they remain an arms dealer in television and film as a provider of content. Anything else here that could be interesting? That's pretty much it there. But so basically, yeah, Lionsgate and Legendary Pictures could eventually meet up here, and let's be honest, Lionsgate right now has been struggling badly. I mean, the last couple of years have been rough for them. And, you know, their big movie that they were betting on this summer, Ballerina, has not done very well. And some might say it has bombed in particular because it hasn't crossed $60 million domestically. It's probably made that money back with overseas. But at the same time, a John Wick movie should not be making that small of a budget, especially at this point in the series right now. Even though it's not a John Wick movie, the movie literally is called From the World of John Wick and has Keanu Reeves on the marketing for it, even though he's barely in the movie. But yeah, there's a lot of things going on with Lionsgate right now that could lead to something like this actually possibly happening. I would be more convened to think that this might happen rather than it may not happen. I mean, we'll see what happens because it is very slow. It is very early on in the process here, but it would not be shocking at all if Lionsgate does eventually get picked up by somebody like a Legendary Pictures. I don't think any of the major studios are going to go after it per se, but who knows? We'll see what happens on that front. But like I said, not that big of a news week in general. That was probably the biggest news story of them all this week. But with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at some recommendations, and then we'll get on out of here. And by recommendations, I mean not a whole lot. It's another one of those weeks where there isn't a lot of big new releases. Of course, last week the big new release was Sinners, and that means that we're kind of in that 2-week period where the next time we get a big new release will be the week after this, which will be when Final Destination Bloodlines comes out, which is one I do recommend checking out. But this weekend in particular, might be a good time to check out some of those Barnes & Noble 50% off Criterion Collection sales. And in terms of catalog titles, there's some new steelbooks coming out for Fury by David Ayer, which was a really good war film with Brad Pitt. Capote is coming out on Blu-ray with a nice-looking, I guess it's a digibook and a Blu-ray case for it. Great movie with Philip Seymour Hoffman giving an Oscar-winning performance. Manifest is coming out on Blu-ray with the complete series of that. There's another Wallace and Gromit complete collection coming out from Shout Factory. Shout Factory also seems to have a new RoboCop steelbook coming up. Frailty, an underrated Bill Paxton movie directed by him and starring Matthew McConaughey, is coming out on 4K. A very underrated movie. Other than that, though, I think that's about it. There isn't really a whole lot in terms of big new releases in general on a Blu-ray and DVD, but yeah, it is what it is. So I pretty much wasted your time on that front here. But then again, some people might say this whole channel is a waste of your time, but I digress. That's going to do it for this episode of the Reviewing Network Live. As we're now 2 shows away from our 100th episode, which will be on August. Actually, July 27th. July 27th will be when our 100th episode will be, and I'll try to do something special for that, but I make no guarantees right now what that's going to be. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching and listening to this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Check out our last episode and check out the playlist below. We do new episodes here every Sunday night, and we also post new videos, new trailer reactions, talking about the movie's clipless versions, and there's plans for new stuff coming your way in the fall. So there's definitely going to be more output coming up on this channel in the months to come. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this and listening to this. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Until then, we are out.